before her dad's left.
Yeah, this is the true prologue here. Welcome to D&D, of course, we're recording, but yeah, this is like, if you want to read it, it's your prologue to episode 1. But we're just doing a lore episode, so.
Of course. One story from her childhood should be told here. That is, the night the dark came. When Cassie was about 8, when she was still living in the nursery close to her parents' quarters and her nursemaid had long since gone to bed, a shadow fell over her dreams. As she woke, she found herself, for the first time, alone. The transition from her trundle beside her maid's bed to the larger canopy bed in the main room had been hard. Cassie had never woken from a nightmare and not had a parent or nursemaid there beside her to light a candle and rock her back to sleep. Now she sat, the covers across her lap, completely alone. The wooden castle was a welcoming place, or so it had always seemed to Cassie. Now, alone in a large room, the wooden floor stretching cold and empty from her bed, it no longer felt so warm and welcoming. She crept out of her warm cocoon, pulling her blanket with her. She pushed open the heavy, to an 8-year-old, door of the nursery to the cold hallway. Her room had had a hearth that had warmed the room earlier in the day, but the coals had gone cold some hours ago. The rest of the keep was not so lucky, and the hallway seemed icy as she slowly made her way down the hall, in what she believed to be the direction of her parents' room. It wasn't a long walk, but when she made it to the solid oak doors, she hesitated. Should she knock? Or would it be easier to just slip into their bed like she had when she was small? She was a very grown-up now, you see. As her small form stood in front of the door, and the small knit blanket in her hand, bleached white in the little moonlight that peeped from the dark curtains, not 5 feet away a figure stood. A sharp blade flashed as the light caught it, but Cassie saw nothing. Her small fist held up a moment from knocking. As her hand moved to hit the door, 2 large hands grabbed her from behind, one around her small waist and the other around her mouth and nose. Her eyes bulged as she tried to scream, but the only sound in the dark hallway was the muffled footsteps and the slight sounds of struggling. As a dark figure drew the girl back into the darkness under a portrait, behind him another figure stepped into the dim light in front of the door, a lockpick in one hand and a knife in the other. All Cassie could see was darkness, and spots of light began to dance in front of her eyes. She was struggling to breathe, and even the smallest movement was made almost impossible as seemingly invisible arms held her tight and quiet. Suddenly, a loud bang, and the doors from the end of the hall, not 20 feet away, were thrown open. Standing there, backlit in the glowing candlelight, was Cassie's dad. He held a sword in his hands, and 3 of the keep guards stood behind him, weapons drawn. Put her down. Her dad's voice had never sounded so deep and terrifying. At once, he was not the loving father who swung her around and played in the creek with her. He was a man who had fought in the war, and the dark figures were not sneaky assassins, but 2 very unfortunate souls who found themselves holding the child of a very, very scary man. The hand holding Cassie's face loosened in surprise, and she drew a deep breath. Her mangled scream echoed in her eyes as she looked up at her father. Daddy. The next few moments are a blur in Cassie's memory, shouts and screams and the panic of battle. The next thing she knew, she was sitting on the floor, her once blue knit blanket trampled, warm blood soaked into it from the glassy-eyed man lying in front of her crumpled form. She couldn't seem to look away from his staring brown eyes, his crimson life force flowing from a gash in his neck. Her dad's arms wrapped around her, and she fought him as he picked her up gently and brought her through the nearby door. The warm sleeping chamber, once calm and peaceful, was now upturned, and her father was nowhere to be seen. As her dad took her closer to the warm fire, there he held her as she cried. All at once and uncontrollably, the tears not stopping until she lay exhausted in his arms. As she began to fall into a troubled sleep, the last thing she saw was her dad's face, lit only by the few candles and the low fire, stone cold, and his eyes alight with a fury she had never seen. While Cassie remembers this as the first time she saw her father angry, the more important thing to note is that after that night, Cassie never slept in the dark again. The fireplace in her room was always lit at night, and when the weather grew warm, a candle, or 2 or 3, was always kept lit beside her bed or on the desk. The maids had strict orders to keep an eye on and replace the candles, or stoke the fireplace, as needed, so the room was never in full darkness. This ritual lasted well into her late teens, as did the nightmares. Though they didn't happen so often as she grew older, nightmares of dark figures and groping hands plagued her.
Oh yes, wonderful. I must adorn my fancy wig for this next scene. But yes, thank you for that intro. Honestly, for this next scene, obviously we're gonna be at the wooden castle. might as well just lead with your dream. Actually, I'd have to adorn this other wig. So yes, as you sleep fitfully through the nights, as the years pass by, you have a dream again of your presumably dead father, who resides, seems to be in a cell in a prison, and he speaks your name, Cassie. Cassie,
Father?
I I love you, Cassie. I will wait for you. But this is all that your dream really entails. You've actually had it a couple nights in a row now, and really it feels like it's happening in the moment, like it's very real. Everyone else, in the kingdom, your dad and your mother and all the knights have searched for any sign of your father uh, years ago, and nothing was ever found, and he was presumed dead. But obviously these dreams trouble you. So yeah, basically, unless there's anything you want to do, um, just going to go ahead and give you a little brief overview of a couple things that have changed over these years. So your mother looks after you more often now, as your father has been consumed by business of the estate. Reigning king is becoming increasingly difficult with multiple factors of peasants underperforming, being scared and sickly. Boils and pox have become more common in recent years. So, your mother is your kind of your most primary parental contact figure that you have whenever you need something. She can be found. Usually, your dad's quite busy, but you still see him sometimes. So yeah, basically, one day we will probably just transition to the primary scene here, where you're being tutored, and yeah, does your tutor have a name? Do you remember?
No, I do not believe he does. Simply the vibe of being a very tall, pale, dark-robed man, and despite his actuality, Cassie sees him as a kind of a plague in her life to a certain extent.
Yes, he's somewhat boring. He speaks quite authoritatively. He's very nerdy, and he always sits you down in class and says, "Now we shall read from these manuscripts you shall learn today. Yeah, you have learned much, so now you shall learn of history. Do you know anything of the history of these lands, Cassandra?"
Well, not any more than you've taught me, sir. I know most of the history immediately surrounding the wooden castle, though I would love to know more about the Pale Castle and all that goes on. I'm sure I can't avoid learning at this point.
Hmm. Indeed, very wise, my girl. Yes, the Pale Castle, a wondrous place. We have seen it from afar. I have not been there much myself, but I know this is the foundation of Farleon, the grand capital, where the Grand King rests, rules over us all, and united these lands many years ago. Well, let us turn to the textbooks. Maybe they shall inform us. Uh, Let me read to you from this history class textbook. Ah, this calendar year begins at year 0 AL, which is after the fall of the great Dark Lord Garrisoni, the Forgotten One. The great Dark Lord of Demons was defeated many years ago, and elves ruled the lands, segregated the kingdoms, of high elves being the most noble, and the dwarves and humans were disliked and sent far away. The goblins retreated into hiding. Um, the humans sought a new lord in these times of peace, and this is when the grand kings of Farleon are born. in the Pale Castle, and other great castles throughout these lands, far beyond the lands where we currently dwell. In the year 200, the grand cities of men and elves prosper throughout the lands, but massive beasts and demons rule the wilds, still created by the Dark Lord. Many tales are to be had in this time, but much knowledge has been lost to us. In the year 500 AL, the elves of Errigol began raging a war against us to purify the planet and destroy these goblins, beasts, as well as the humans. So we have had to fight for our lives against them, and they have driven us back to these regions and nearly extinct many races. In 801, grand cities of men, known as the once great lands, are destroyed. Ruins are left across the continent, as thousands upon thousands of men are killed by elven magic and old fey folk sakes. The elves and magic begin to fade, and men are defeated largely across the continent, and we retreat to this territory of Farleon, where the elves cannot reach us as easily. We are protected by a great desert to the west, where the war still rages across the lake, eventually leading to the great lake being poisoned. Not much is known of these times either, but in 802, the great lake town of the elves is built to the north, and these lands are lost to humans. In 805, the war between the elves of Errigol and the rogue elves of the east began. These warring factions are known to us, although many appear hostile still. In 806, the general leading of the eastern charge from Errigol decides to make a treaty and join these rogue elves. Not much is known of their ways. But in 810, the war between the Errigoldian Empire elves and the last remnants of men rages on in the Field of Spines. This will become known as the 1,000-Year War, for it is hard fought, and transportation of resources between these treacherous and desolate lands is perilous and expensive. Not much ground has been gained by either side for centuries, and it is something of a cold conflict. Although, if you were in these lands, it would surely be dangerous and hot. The brave knights who defend humanity are to be respected with the utmost degree. In the year 900 AL, battle mages and wizards of Farleon, although rare, turned against the king and tried to overthrow him, plunging humanity into a civil war and almost destroying everything. But the treasonous magic users were subdued by the paladins and wise knights of Farleon, with aid from the Word, no doubt, and the monks of the First Word. Magic is outlawed officially in Farleon in 901 AL, and in the 1,000 year, the ages of men rise. As the war efforts wane, peace is near. Humanity develops well. Much art and culture is revived. Many songs and histories are collected, even this book. We have gained some knowledge of the past. In this great gap, though, of knowledge, we come to modern time. In 1003, the 100-Year War began, part of the 1,000-Year War, mind you, which has now raged for over 1,000 years. This 100-year period marks the time when the war ceases to be cold at all. More aggressive elves attend the battles and make progress through the lands, cutting into the civilians and the peaceful lands, driving humans back. Is this too intense for you, Cassandra? I'm sorry. These histories can be quite gruesome.
Sounds like a lot of war, if I'm being honest. Though a lot of our histories have focused around war, I suppose.
Yes. Well, of course, there are other histories we can study. But I suppose to wrap this up, in the year 2003, or rather 1203, mind you, excuse me, it is not until the old master called Zenda was able to fend the elves off in the great city of Farleon and drive the armies back to the lands of the Field of Spines that relative peace was gained again. And yes, This will about sum up the wars of the land. This Cold War still reigns, especially to the west, but we know relative peace in these lands, although I know we have tasted the fate of war recently. Enough history for today. Is there anything else you would like to study, Cassandra?
Sorry. I mean, if you're willing to continue, I am curious about the Civil War you spoke of when magic was outlawed. Do we know what the magic users wanted?
I do not know much about these. I believe there is not much known about their motives. They acted strangely. We assume that the magic had corrupted their minds in some way, although it is not fully understood.
I suppose that's as good an answer as any.
Yes. If you come across anything further in your studies, do let me know.
Of course. Speaking of which, I do have that essay you wanted, 1.5 pages, like you asked. She hands over a parchment with many things crossed out, like kind of like before you could backspace because it's parchment, and so like there's a cross. It's not beautiful, but it is 1.5 pages.
Very good. Thank you. Well, I suppose this shall be all of our teachings for today. However, there are some maps you may pore over, should you wish to.
Of course. Does that mean we're done? Because I did promise Mother that I would bring her fresh flowers for her vase in her room today, and there's some beautiful ones, and I think the roses just bloomed. Oh, sorry. Is that all?
Oh, it's perfectly fine, my dear. Yes, that should be all. See to your mother, and don't forget, you do have some lessons with the priest later in about an hour. So meet him here.
Of course. Thank you. And she curtsies.
The word be with you.
And with you also.
Well, yes. I'll go ahead and just real quick send you a little bit of this history that I was reading, in case you ever want to look at it.
Thank you. I have an entire document called like the history of the world, essentially.
Nice. Yeah, this is I sent it as a message text. I'll send it better later. But yeah, if you want to go, get flour for your mom, you totes can. You can do whatever you want at the manor lands. You know what's up here.
I imagine Cassie, wearing her pinafore, goes down to the seamstress's hut where they have these rose bushes planted, and they've recently bloomed, and so she's carefully gets a bouquet of roses, and they're like little wild roses. They're not like those like roses you'd find in the grocery store that are really big. They're like the wild roses, which smell a whole ton better, by the way. Just like a small bouquet of wild roses. She pricks up her hands quite a bit, like she's bleeding at this point, because roses will be roses. And she takes them with her back to the, I almost said lodge, that's not the correct word. I want to say living quarters, also not the correct word. Bunks isn't right.
To the castle, the wooden castle, or
yeah, like there's usually
the
like
ward?
Yeah, essentially like where the sleeping chambers or like her mother's rooms would be, which I assume would be separate from like her dad and father's like main bedrooms. I assume that her mother would probably have like her own sitting room and her own studios and all of her own space.
Yeah, it's near on the map, near the king's quarters. It's like her area, and yours is nearby as well, kind of in the ward section. There's a couple of rooms for various people. But yeah, you're basically just gonna go try to find your mom in there. Gonna go like just try to go knock on doors or look into your mom's room or
pop in. And she usually knocks on the door and is just kind of waiting politely, holding her roses.
You'll hear like enter, May I enter?
She opens the door slowly. And, Mother, the roses that I promised you, for your vase.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Cassie. Put them in this vase. Please get some water there from the basin on the table for the vase.
She says. Um, she starts filling this vase, and while she's there, she washes the dirt and blood off of her hands in this basin and wipes them on her
Oh,
pinafore
don't mind
apron.
me, dear. Just writing a note to old Alexandria. Out in Rivenfield. She is such a sweetheart. You'll meet her
Yeah,
one day, I'm sure. She'll be here for a feast. We're planning in your honor, my dear.
in my
You
honor.
you are coming of age, of course, now. One day you'll be presented, don't you know?
I suppose. What's she like?
If you mind your manners, yes. Don't get into any more trouble with the Lord. Alexandria? Oh, she's quite a dear. Um, Blonde. She looks a lot like you. She's young. Um, but she's very devout in the word in the churches in her area. Uh, she has told me much which I was not aware of in the doctrines of the first and the second word. Mm. But yes, can I help you with anything today, my dear?
Um, do you have any ointments? I may have cut my hands up a little bit getting those roses.
Um, I believe I'm not sure. And she looks through some jars over on her nightstand. She's got this big dresser that she opens up. Um, and she says, perhaps some of this ointment might help, but you could also see to Henry, the physician, if you'd like. I will call him to you.
Oh,
Um,
no need. It's just a scratch, I promise.
yeah, she'll powder some strange powdery, some purpley substance on there. Wherever you're needing it, she's like, that should do just nice. Try to
Thank
relax
you.
your muscles.
Out of here, do we have a new baby?
Um, yeah, yes, there is
Have we decided
a
that?
baby. She's like 3 now, and
Oh my
yeah,
god.
she would also be in the ward, probably attended by another maid in a
Have you
nearby
decided her
room.
name?
Uh, um, so no, but we could pick it real quick. Her name is Did you have any input for her name back when
I
you
would
picked it?
know. I did Cassandra's name because it's a very princess name. It's Cassandra, but can be shortened to something like Cassie. Whoop. Um,
I think her name is Rorianne. She's going to be quite a rambunctious young lady. I can feel it, just like you. Of course, uh, children are such a handful. You may know one day the struggles.
I think I might pop in on her before I get my lessons. I know that I'm supposed to be back with the priest in a couple of minutes. But thank you so much for helping. By the way, I hope you like the
Of
roses.
course. Yes, delightful to see you. Thank you. Have a wonderful time. She's just instantly scribbling away, writing her notes as you depart. Um,
Cassie is going to run and just pop in on her sister. I assume she's playing or sleeping, and she's just gonna give her a peck on the forehead, just on her way out.
yeah, she's just kind of in a crib. She's just kind of sleeping, kind of. She's got one hand on this little toy, kind of moving it, but she's mostly slipping into sleep. It seems like for a little nap. There's a maid
Out,
nearby, and you can kiss her.
out of curiosity, would she be Cassie's full or half sister?
So she's her full sister.
Okay. Out of curiosity, um, Cassie's probably gonna make sure that she's probably wearing a dress with a pinafore. Do you know what a pinafore is, by the way?
You mean that little overcoat
Kind of. No,
that
it's
you
more like
wear
an
over that?
apron. It's more like an apron.
Yeah.
So you wear a solid color dress, and then it's a very large apron.
Oh,
So
okay.
So she's gonna like, brush off her pinafore, make sure everything's, clean and orderly and presented, and then she's going to head back to probably her chambers, I'd assume. She probably has a sitting room where she gets lessons.
Yeah. So yeah, sounds perfect. For the next scene, let's see here. As you enter, you do see this this clean cut, like red robed priest has like a black book. He's just like kind of waiting there for you. He says, are you ready then for your lessons, my dear?
Yes, sorry for making you wait. She curtsies.
It is okay. You are not too far behind, judging by the candles here. Now then, let us begin. I don't know if you've had a chance to overlook this map, which was left here so kindly by the tutor, but it should be useful. It's in the Discord. There are some things in these religious books which I think we should go over. They could help your spiritual development. There is one lesson I would like to stress for you, my dear. Are you all settled in?
Yes, she's sitting looking at her map.
Now, tell me, how much do you remember about our lessons some time ago, about a fortnight? The creation of the world, the great ocean, and the great tree which covered everything.
I'm familiar, of course.
Very good. This will follow in the writings of old, of the second church. The first fae created by the word were known as Birch, artist and shaper of things, and Toss, sage and namer of things. Birch and Toss were the first great spirits of consciousness. They were created everything. They created everything and that did not already exist, such as the realization of the oceans and the word and existence, space and form and thought, and consciousness itself. But she used these as tools to create new things. They played with the dragons and the spirits of all future people who would walk on land, or even be thought of in the mind of man or elf. Everything existed at this time, except evil, for all was one, and all was welcome and good. The word smiled. Birch and Toss created the rosewood from it. The rosewood is a very important relic. All life was born from the elder tree. Yes, these are the great teachings of old. Remember the great Fae who created all life. You shall learn much. I would like you to study these teachings as well, my dear. Meditate on them for some time. I shall send these to you.
Of course, sir.
He'll hand you a book. Just kind of expect you to study it. And that's a small document there. Let me know if anything stands out to you, my dear. It is a lovely day today.
It is. I'm hoping to go on a picnic after lessons today. I can't stand to be inside all the time.
Indeed. Well, it is clear that you study hard. You have done enough work inside. Perhaps you could have the rest of the day off, if you don't get into any trouble.
Of course not. I'm not allowed outside the walls anyway, but there's this spot by the pond that I really like to have picnics in, and I was planning on grabbing maybe some bread and cheese from the kitchen and having a picnic. And I'll take this with me. I'll study while I'm there, I promise.
Very well. Return the book here, and I shall pick it up next week.
Thank you so much, sir.
And yeah, you can go off and have your picnic. You can prepare anything you'd like, if you want to describe that.
Cassie's going to kind of run down to the kitchens and grab I imagine there's like it's essentially like a cheese board probably, so like any of the like essentially snagging some of the fresh fruits and probably oh, goodness. Don't mind my husband sneezing. Oh, about give me a heart attack. She's gonna grab like a small basket, and she's done this many times before. The kitchen staff are well familiar with her habits. She'll pop in and grab some snacks and things, and head off to probably the same or similar place that she did when she was a young girl, where she's like bent the boughs, and it's kind of like a hidden spot by the pond. I imagine it to be summer, unless you have another time of year it's supposed to be. So it's warm, there's flowers blooming, and it's like a bed of grass where she can sit by the pond. And she's taken this religious text with her with every intention of actually studying it, but she does get extremely and immediately distracted, looking at and observing all of the wildlife by the pond. And I imagine as she sits there, of course, her religious studies teacher does not know that she has exhibited signs of magic. I believe the only person who would be her main tutor, besides her immediate family.
I mean, there's some people who kind of have overheard about it, but per the first session, I mean, obviously your parents, the Lord, Dad, and your mom are aware, as well as, maybe not your tutor. A lot of the people who knew about it, like kind of were sent away, kind of like
Yeah,
the Tanner boy. So yeah, you do have a point there actually, but yeah, definitely your parents.
there might have been some rumors in the area, but they've been attempted to be squashed, I assume. It's like no one's supposed to know, which is why in this little hidden place, while she's sitting, she's meditating. Essentially, she's sitting in this small, warm place in the middle of summer and listening to the dragonflies over the pond, the buzzing of the bees by the flowers, and watching the water lap up against the side of this pond. And just kind of this stillness, and even the stillness of the bustle of the palace, and people running to and fro, but almost in the background out of this small little patch of nature in the main yard. And as she sits there, as always, curiosity gets the better of her, and she kind of like holds her hand out, and she's always tried to recreate this thing that's happened to her, these dancing lights, and she's trying to focus and make it happen again in her hand. She's imagining the orbs that she saw that day, and she's done this multiple times, I assume, without anything happening. Trying to recreate it, and she likes to imagine if she could prove that it wasn't real, that maybe it wasn't real, maybe she made it up. Maybe she is not actually a magic user and she can see her friends again. Maybe it's all just one big mistake, but then there is a part of her who definitely like wants it to happen, wants to see it again, wants to be special in this way. And so she's holding her hands out, trying to conjure light, and just like focusing in this meditative state, just light, 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 light. Leave it up to you whether or not anything actually happens. Just trying to recreate this.
I'll have you, roll a d20, and then also, I will say there was another incident about a year ago where, actually more like almost 2 years ago, after the events of the first session, where you were very upset and there was like some sparks that were created, kind of like you had mentioned previously. And obviously you got a new tutor then as well. But yeah. What'd you roll?
I got an 11.
An 11. So yeah, we'll just go with, nothing really happens. But I will say, well, unless you want to say anything else.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. You're probably like, shoot.
Just disappointed. Disappointed.
But yeah, I'll say as you kind of like leaf, kind of just like mindlessly through a couple pages of this religious text, you notice like this small sheet of paper that kind of slips out from behind one of the pages. And I'll send this to you, but it says like it's a truth serum. It looks like a potion, ingredients to brew a potion of truth, and somewhat interesting. You know, obviously magic is outlawed, so you're not sure why this would be here, and you're not sure you should be in possession of it even. It kind of makes you a little bit nervous for that reason, but also very interesting. You know, it involves grandmother oil, some mundane ingredients like fruit that you've heard of, but also some strange ingredients like brewer rick, which you've never heard of. And you're not sure you could find it, but this paper slips out at you.
She's gonna read over this. It doesn't appear to be a complete recipe as much as it is like an ingredients list. Am I reading that correctly?
So there's a little bit more that I didn't send you. I say as you kind of like flip over to the back side, there's a little bit of instructions that you can pour over, and I'll send that to you if you'd like. But basically, yeah, it just says to mix it up, and it tells you to add like the clave at the end as well as the fruit to the cauldron. But you mix the first three ingredients together first. That's what it says. It creates like a base, which could be used to form mini potions.
Very fascinated. And she's going to like take it and probably fold the piece of paper in half and put it in her pocket after like studying it for a few minutes. She's not sure whether or not like it was meant to be there, but it's mine now.
Heck yeah. Anything else you want to do as you enjoy your delicious picnic and pretend to study?
Calling me out. Probably not. Now that like all the food is gone, she's tried and inevitably failed once again to recreate the events of essentially her exile. She's rather bored and disappointed. Like she does try this on a fairly regular basis, even though she knows she's definitely not supposed to. So after finding that, she decides that she wants to go probably back to her chambers. Now that she's gotten to enjoy, I assume she's probably been there for like 20-ish, 30 minutes. So now that her picnic is over, she's going to start heading back to the castle, probably to her rooms. And I think she's probably going to try and look up the ingredients on this list. Like, I imagine there'd be some kind of like a library or something nearby, where she might be able to like a book of herbs or something that show like she's not familiar with a lot of these ingredients and she wants to look them up. So she's gonna go inside and go wherever she would find that information.
Yeah, definitely. You've got all sorts of libraries and books at your disposal, so you can go ahead and roll like an investigation check. You try to just find some relevant material. And obviously you can get pure water, but you're not really sure about anything else except for I will say you're aware of Jarson fruit and Jim Bone. You can find these without too much trouble. So it's just the rest of the ingredients you're not really sure what those are at all.
That investigation check was a 4 on the die.
Okay, yeah. So I will say you find some information about oils. You learn that oils can be crafted, but not like grandmother oil specifically, like more like olive oil. It's popular.
Not particularly helpful.
You make nut oil, apparently.
Yeah, not helpful. She's not allowed. I assume she's not allowed to leave the walls of the wooden castle, like she's not allowed to leave the yard. And I would assume that probably any true herbalist would probably be in town, so she can't like go to an herbalist to ask questions. All she has are these books.
Yeah, until like recently, you could definitely leave the gates somewhat, but yeah, recently you're definitely kind of like supposed to be on lockdown. But you could try to sneak away.
She's going to assume that. Oh yeah, she's totally sneaking out. Okay. She's going to put on her plainest clothes. because she's trying not to stick out. Because I mean, like, she's gonna stick out like a sore thumb. But she's gonna put on her plainest pinafore, probably her like an old dirty one that she played in the mud with, like, you know, so it's not like a pristine white thing.
Yeah.
She's gonna grab probably. Would she know like how rare books are? Like, would bringing the herbalist book she has be suspicious if books are not easily found, or would it make sense for her to take it to the herbalist?
I would say you're unsure. It's definitely, you know, you have these thoughts, like it could go either way. It's definitely not like, you know, it's not free. The book is not, you know, free. It looks like you have some money, but you're not sure if it'll be a big deal or not.
Okay, I think she's going to take some notes. She can err on the side of caution, grab a quill and take some notes about what she did find, which wasn't useful. And she's not going to take the original paper. She's hiding the original paper, probably like under her pillow, in a very classic place. But she's going to jot down the ones that she doesn't know, and she's going to like put it in her
scroll. It's basically a small scroll, so that's under your pillow.
Okay.
And then, sorry, what were you saying?
Nope, she's gonna pocket her list and she's going to attempt to leave the yard, and head into. I assume she knows where the herbalist is.
Yeah, you're aware of like some herbalists nearby. There's actually a pretty good one, not too far of a walk off, kind of to the northwest. There's like, you know, obviously some smaller towns of like peasants, and they've got large fields throughout. So yeah, you actually know this lady. You met her once or twice adventuring back in the day with the Tanner boy. Her name was like the Lady Yarlsbith. And yeah, she's a good herbalist and like healer. She's been used by the Lord and ladies around before. But yeah, you can go make your way that way if you want. Try to find an open gate. Go ahead and let's see here. So it's off to the north essentially. So you'll try to go off the north gate, and you know, I will say that the gate is open. You do see like some guards nearby, some knights, and not really sure how you could sneak by without them seeing you, probably knowing who you are.
They definitely know who I am.
Yeah.
Do I recognize any of them, or like any of them Benjamin or any of the other guards I know?
So I'll say you don't recognize these particular knights. You've seen them before, but you don't know their names.
So they probably recognize me, though.
They'd recognize you. You could, you know, you've probably spoken to them before, but you don't really mind them too much, as it were.
Okay, in that case, she's going to steel herself, shoulders back, and with all the confidence in the world, she is just going to walk straight out.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely have you make some kind of a check here. I guess like a charisma check of sorts. I'll go with.
That's okay. That's a 10. That's not horrible. They said the best place to get anywhere is to act like you know where you're going. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, you know, kind of the one of the knights is kind of absently looking off a different direction, maybe kind of surveying the lands. And the one knight who's kind of attentive there just says like, "Milady, be safe beyond the walls."
I shall return shortly. And she does a curtsy and continues on.
And yeah, you all say, you know, you're able to get out of the gate kind of without an incident there, so you can make your way off. Go ahead and let's see here. Maybe make some kind of a navigation check as you make your way off. You can kind of describe to me what you're trying to do if you'd like. And
well,
yeah, if you want to.
Whatever check mine was, I did just roll a 3 on whatever check you're asking for. I mean, she hasn't been outside the walls for a while, so I'd imagine she might be getting a little bit lost. She is once again trying to act as confidently as she can, She's trying to look busy. She's trying to like mimic like the kitchen aides or like the scullery girls. Just like not like the like I'm so important walk or like her regal walk that she's taught in her manners lessons, but more of like the head down, I'm on a mission, I'm going somewhere to pick something up. And like looking at the ground, walking like very steadily. I'm assuming she gets somewhat lost though, trying to find this herbalist. While she's in it,
Yeah,
she's coming up with a story in her head is like why would I be here if I'm questioned? Why am I here? Who am I? Like trying to like come up with like ideas as to like why she'd be here in case she's questioned.
yeah. And yeah, I'd definitely add, going off across the lands, it's pretty empty. There's not a ton of people out. It is midday. There's like some farmers off in a distant field. You kind of at first I'll add go up to the old Tanner house, and you're gonna like go knock at the door and have Tanner lead the way, or the Tanner boy Elric, and you're like, oh wait, he doesn't live here anymore. So then you kind of like wander aimlessly for a time, and then you do kind of get lost off in the farmers' fields. There's a couple trails. There's so many trails that just like intertwined and just like branch off, and the farmers with their carts just go in different ways. You're not even sure you're headed to the right town anymore. But you do come upon like this small town with just a couple houses. It looks similar to the one where you believe this lady, Yarl's resides. So you kind of want to go check it out. You're not totally confident it's the right one. So you don't you don't have your hopes up too high, but you're gonna check and try again if not. So anything you're doing as you approach this town, if you want to go there.
If there isn't an obvious place where she might be, Cassie's going to go to like probably like the first welcoming looking house she can to ask for directions.
Yeah, definitely. I'll say, it's pretty empty in town. There's like 3 houses and lots of fields about. Um, and so, yeah, I'll say all the houses kind of look equally, greeting. There's one that's closest, there's one that's furthest away, and one that's, kind of in the middle. They're all very simple thatched roof cottages. You're not sure anyone will be home right now or what the deal is. But yeah, I'll just have you pick, like the closest one. Is that what you're going
Yeah,
for?
yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah. You're just gonna go knock on that door.
Yep, just gonna knock on the door. In her head, she's like, "I am a servant who's been sent on an errand. I am a servant who's been sent on an errand." How do the servants look when they're sent on errands?
Okay, yeah, awesome. Yeah, as you knock on the door, you hear like a minute, just a minute, and this lady walks over and opens the door. She's like, "Well, what can I do for you, my young lady? Haven't seen you about." Uh,
She's gonna take like a small curtsy, like she sees the maids do. Um, so sorry to bother you, ma'am. I'm looking for an herbalist. I've been sent on an errand, and I'm afraid I've gotten a bit lost.
you're lost, dear. You're looking for the herbalist. Me put my nose on it. I know there's some who study the ways of medicine. Not sure where they would reside, though. Are you okay? Do you need anything now?
No. My master has asked me to get something from her. I'm supposed to be picking something up, and I'm afraid that I've never been there before, and I didn't get good directions.
Oh, of course. Do you want to roll a charisma check?
That's a 9.
Yeah, not too bad. She's gonna say, like, oh, of course, for your master, yes. I might have something for you. Sorry, I can't be of much help. What items are you looking for, ma'am?
I'm more I well, I was supposed to pick up an order, and I don't know what that order is, so I do need to find the herbalist. Um,
Mm,
so I'm afraid I'm not sure if you can help me. One of the other runners has sent ahead, and I'm supposed to just go pick it up. Um,
well, let me go find Henry. I'm sure. I think he knows. You may come with me. And she like will lead you out into the field behind her house. She'll be like calling out, "Henry, Henry, where are you, Henry?" Ah, that man, can't find him anywhere. You want to make a investigation check for me? You try to help her find her lost husband.
That's a 2.
You guys
Gosh
are just
darn
like,
it.
he must be lost. He's been taken by some beasts, some roaming bands of bandits. What will
Um,
we do?
I'm so sorry. I don't see him anywhere. He might just have wandered off to go eat somewhere or something. Um, I'm sorry. Uh,
My dear, it's not your fault. I'm sorry I can't be of more help. Let's head back to the house for now. I have to take a bath. Quite hot. And as you guys kind of approach the house, I will say you kind of see this guy standing there. He says, wife, where have you been? She'll say, oh, Henry, there you are. Please, this girl needs our help. You know the old lady, the herbalist in town nearby. Where can we find her? He'll say, oh, yes, of course. The old lady, Miss Beth. What's her name? Yeah. Head east of here. You should find her house near a couple other houses. Near the Randall's house. Yes. Can't miss it. Just head straight east this way. He'll point off just past the fields and the trees there.
thank you very much, sir. You guys have a wonderful day. Curtsies.
She'll say, "Thank you. Good to see you. Have a wonderful day." And yeah, you can make your way off. He points you right in that right direction. You kind of head to a patch of trees that way, and eventually, you will see kind of this town in the distance. Like this small gathering of cottages. And yeah, you're just gonna make your way over there, try to find the lady. Anything else you're doing?
Um, no, I'm just trying to get there as quickly as possible and remember how to get home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'll say not too hard for you to remember your way home. Probably you can basically see the walls of the wooden castle off in the south, past some hills. So not too crazy far out. Um, but yeah, as you make your way kind of to the east, yeah, you come upon these houses, and you do actually recognize them. So you're aware, like, yeah, this is Lady Yarlsmith's house. So you can go kind of knock on her door or whatever you'd like. Again,
Yep.
there's not too many people about. Awesome. Well, obviously, I've got to wear this gray wig for the lady. But yeah, as you go to knock on the door opens, and she says, like, "Oh, my dear, what are you doing here? Who are you?"
Oh, I just had some questions for you, ma'am. I've heard you were very wise in the way of herbs. And I was doing some studying, and I found some things that I didn't recognize, and my mother didn't know what they were either. So I was wondering if you could help identify them for me.
Oh, indeed, my lady. Well, I'll have you make a persuasion check, I suppose.
Persuasion, deception, either way, it's a 5.
Either way, it's a 5. She says, can't put my finger on it. I've seen you around here before. Somewhere. What was your name again, my dear?
Caroline.
Caroline? Caroline, the poor peasant's farmer's daughter. No, that's not it. That's Margaret. Cassandra. You're Cassandra, lady of the wooden castle. I recognize you. And seen you in years. How have you been holding up, my dear?
Oh,
Oh,
doing okay. Please don't tell anybody I was here.
I guess you can make another persuasion check for that one.
That's a
She smiles at you.
15.
She says, "Of course not." She gives you a wink. She's like, "A little secret, my dear. Stay safe. Whatever do you need, my lady?"
I had a few questions. I was doing some research, and I came across this thing called grandmother oil, and I didn't find anything in the books in the castle, and I was wondering if you could tell me what it is.
Of course. purified from the finest grandmas. I have some here, should you like them. I'm
Yes.
only joking.
Okay. Yeah, I would love a vial or so, if that's okay.
Yeah. She pulls out like a couple vials of various sizes from this nearby like kind of mantle that she has near the wall, and kind of this like cabinet rather. And yeah, she says, of course. Do you have any coin on you, my dear?
Oh, she has completely forgotten how to do this. Completely like forgot that people need paid. Would she have any like jewelry on her or anything?
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I'll say
maybe
you
like
have like a piece of jewelry. Yeah.
probably like a necklace or a ring or something. She's just, gonna, take it off and like, I don't have any coin, but I do have this gold ring.
Oh, my goodness, dear. Uh, you may have more than this large vial of grandma oil for this beautiful ring.
Oh, well, I might actually want something else as well. Do you know what Beeson Bruwick is?
Easton Brewick. Haven't heard of this in some time. I'm not quite sure. I need some time to think. Beast. She like goes over to this other room, kind of just like quickly turning about and disappearing. And you hear her like leafing through some books and some scrolls. She says, I'm not sure, dear. I wish I could. Is there anything else I can do for you?
Um, Perhaps a few clave capsules would be lovely, just in case.
Oh, Clave, yes, of course, my dear. You may have one just for your stomach. Are you feeling okay? And she like
Um,
goes to another room, disappearing for a moment.
at the moment, yeah, I'm fine. Um, my mother has complained of some stomach problems recently, and I was thinking of giving her some. I know that we of course have a doctor and everything on site, but I thought it'd be a nice gesture for her.
Of course. She like comes back with this large jar, like as big as she is of this like there's like white substances inside. You're not quite sure. There's like some powder at the bottom and some capsules. She's like, I've got so many of these. They are so useful. I shall give you as much as you'd like. I have some coins. I'll pay you as well. Uh, uh, your ring is worth so much. We should strike a fair deal here, my dear child.
I mean, it's okay. You don't have to empty your purse for anything, or anything for me. I'm sure I can certainly afford it. I do appreciate your honesty, though. Um, I'll just take a couple of small vials of the grandmother oil, and maybe a handful of the clave capsules, and I'll be on my way. And feel free just to keep the ring.
Of course. Lovely to see you, my dear. Come back, visit me again. Maybe if I find anything about your Beeson, what is it, Beeson? I'll let you
Bruwick.
know. Brewery. I've. This sounds familiar to me, but I can't put my finger on it. Well, is there anything else you need, my dear?
I think that's everything. Feel free to just send me a message or send a messenger for me or anything if you find anything. Thank you so much, and please remember,
Of course.
don't tell anyone I was here. It's our little secret.
Mum's the word. Um, so yeah, you make off, with a good portion of, grandma oil and the capsules as best you need. So you basically only need one more ingredient to try to attempt to brew this serum, should you wish. So yeah, you don't really have any leads on what to do except for possibly wait for the lady Yarlsbeth to hear back from her. But yeah, is there anything else you'd like to do?
Um, I think she's feeling Cassie's feeling very happy for successfully going on a little adventure, even though she's not allowed outside the walls. Um, she gives a quick curtsy to the guards as she rushes back in, kind of like trying to hide her face. Um, so
Yeah, you can get back in.
not taking a lot of thought towards her, hopefully. I think that's probably Everything. She's going to, of course, hide the grandmother oil and the clave capsules immediately. And ideally, like, she, like, has a bookshelf in her bedroom, and she's going to, like, take out one of the books and, like, put both. She's going to take the little scroll out from under her pillow along with the grandmother oil and the clave capsules, and she's going to, like, push them to the back and then, like, re-put the book so that you can't tell it's there.
Nice.
Yeah,
definitely.
And probably pull a book off the shelf and start reading. It's probably what she'd do with her afternoons, if she doesn't have any more lessons, that is.
Yeah, no, yeah, you have the rest of the day, so yeah, that sounds perfect, exactly as you described it. And honestly, that is about everything I've planned. I mean, we did some impromptu stuff as well, so
And
that was
it's like
pretty good.
almost exactly 9:30, so we're right on time.
It was perfect. Yeah, so thanks for playing. Here, I'll go ahead and stop the recording. I mean, we have to say like goodbye. Bye. Bye. I'll